Thank you all for inviting me here to speak today on the topic of women in public life. This is a really interesting and exciting topic for me. As you all know, my name is Teresa Younger, and I'm the Executive Director of the Permanent Commission on the Status of Women. And it's a different kind of state agency. We've talked a little bit in several conversations about the role and trustworthiness of government. In the state of Connecticut, we have a state public policy agency that worries and works on women's issues every single day. We're a nonpartisan arm of the legislative branch of government. And my presentation and notes today will probably leave you with 500 more questions than it will answer, or I hope it does, and I hope one of those questions is not, what was she talking about? So we'll start out with that. I wanted to just give you a little bit more on who I am and fill you in a little bit, because these will answer some of the questions that I work on. I mentioned the Permanent Commission on the Status of Women, otherwise known as the PCSW. We are celebrating our 40th anniversary year. And when people say to me, what kind of work do you do at the PCSW, I try to make it as simple as possible. We provide supports for legislators around issues that are most critical to them and how they affect the lives of women. We provide research for them on key issues and legislative support. This past legislative cycle, we monitored 250 bills and testified on 50. In topics ranging from human trafficking, minimum wage, family medical leave insurance, the promotion of women in political offices. So our range is quite broad. We also do original research and have worked with some of the organizations you've heard of today. We're responsible for coalition building and being the liaison between the media, government, community, and women's organizations. And we publish a book called A Book of Women's Organizations, which has over 250 women's organizations in it. But going to the topic that we're talking about today, we also promote women in leadership roles, which most people don't necessarily pay attention to. You've heard the story that women need to be asked anywhere between 3 and 7 times before they'll run for political office, and men will wake up in the morning and decide they are running for political office. At the Commission, we work on ensuring that women have the opportunity to be asked to run for political office, and we do it in a variety of ways. We also ensure that women are in leadership roles in its broadest context. So I'm not just talking about running for political office, I'm talking about holding levels of political power. In the last gubernatorial cycle, we asked each candidate running for governor to sign a pledge that they would have their administration be 50% women. Every single person running for governor signed that pledge. And then we answered the question, which is, do they know women who are qualified to serve in top levels of leadership within their administration? And we knew that most of them would say no, because you only know who you know. And you don't know who you don't know. So we went out and we started talking with women throughout the state of Connecticut and some in the state of Massachusetts and asked them if they would consider working for state government in the top levels of government, the policy levels, the head of Department of Family and Children, the head of the Department of Public Health, the head of the Department of Transportation. You name the agencies, we tapped women who were interested in that. And in fact, we moved a sitting Connecticut Supreme Court justice to step down from her seat and take the appointment as the commissioner of the Department of Children and Families. We had a conversation, an ongoing conversation, about how you impact change and make systems change happen, and where power is. We also promote women running for elected office, so it's not just appointments but elections. And I serve on the board of the Women's Campaign School at Yale that takes and identifies women and teaches them how to not just run for political office, but how to run political campaigns, which allows women who are running for political office to hire women who know how to run their campaigns. It's not just about the top level, it's about the second level and the third level underneath that. And we at the Commission have been working really hard on that. We do a lot of public speaking. We do a lot of research. In the back of the room is my brochure. Please take it. Go to the website. All of those kinds of fun things. I'm talking really, really fast because I have 10 pages of notes that I really want to get to. I live, eat, and breathe the topic that we have been talking about for the past day and a half. My presentation will be a little bit different than those you've seen because I come to it in a little bit different way. I live entrenched in these issues, and they are all tied together for me. Gender equity, civic engagement, health equity, electoral politics, educational reform, pay equity. The list goes on and on. At 12:22 last night, a set of twins were born at Mass General to parents that had long awaited their decision to add to their family. They had worked on being economically secure, on having quote-unquote stable jobs. These children, one boy, Johnny, and one girl, Sarah, were the apple and are the apple of their parents' eyes. They will be given everything, the fullest opportunities of a middle-class working family. They will play baseball and softball, the piano, participate in martial arts, dance classes. They will attend their local community schools, and they will have religious class once a week. Sarah and her mother would join the Girl Scouts, and Johnny and his father would join the Boy Scouts, and both children will succeed and soar in their fields. Johnny and Sarah will both graduate from high school and go on to college. Both will carry the same post-college graduate debt, and John, as he is now called, will go on and make a median income of $46,993, and Sarah will make $37,133. Both children are growing up in the world we are in today, post-civil rights, Brown versus the Board of Education, Title IX, Roe v. Wade, and an era of marriage equality. They are growing up at a time when women can attend just about any institutional university of higher education. They can apply for any job. She can have credit in her own name. And yet the disparities of women's power is unfortunate and unfair. And even Barack Obama sees the importance of that equality. The windshield wiper, the circular saw, antifungal Neostin, street sweepers, computer programming, submarine telegraph code that eluded the Nazis, paper bags, leukemia drugs, non-toxic replacement for asbestos, coffee filters, the folded parachute, maritime signal flares, the formula that led to the development of computer software, artificial intelligence and computer music, the cellular molecular shape of penicillin, vitamin B, vitamin D, and insulin, and even the refrigerator. Why do I list off all of these things? Because oftentimes it is forgotten where women have played a role in moving along social growth and social process. These women, yes, all women who invented those items, helped defeat an enemy, whether the enemy was an imperial power, a disease, foul weather, or a criminal mind. Just think about that for one moment. You know the names of many men like Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Edison and Steve Jobs, but none of you would attest that they have done for social work what women have done. I don't have time to get into all of their names, but if you'd like them, you can find me afterwards. I want to tell you just a couple more stories before we go on, because what I think is most important is that we stay attuned to the fact that it's the experiences that we bring to the table that influence how we see things. I'll be quite honest with you. I grew up a Girl Scout. How many of you in the room were Girl Scouts or Girl Guides at some point? How many of you were Boy Scouts at some point? I only ask that question because as you look around the room, those of us who are engaged in those kinds of activities have an understanding of civic engagement and leadership that doesn't come along easily. Let me tell you, there are women who have been part of the social engagement movement for a number of years. In fact, Juliet Gordon Low, the founder of the Girl Scouts, was just that, a visionary. She did in 1912, before women even had the right to vote, what most people were not doing. She felt that girls should have the opportunity to come together, to be active in community service, to wear pants, and to even go outside. She was, quote unquote, a rebel in her time. She challenged institutional stereotypes. 1912, 8 years before women even had the right to vote. As women's rights advanced, Girl Scouting gave girls the opportunity to explore new things and participate in community service activities and break down barriers. The lesser story is how this organization gave women, the mothers in those situations, a role in their communities, to be seen as mentors, to shape the future, to impact what was going on, and to make sure that their voices were heard. They led an organization that was developed by women, but for girls. The confidence in their actions ensured that we had girls of courage, confidence, and character. It's most interesting to me that we bring this out now when we've heard so much data today about what women are and are not. Women who are at one time Girl Scouts have greater perceptions of themselves. They see themselves as being far more capable and competent compared to people who are not Girl Scouts. Their levels of volunteerism are up 1/3 compared to those who were not involved in Girl Scouting, and their civic engagement, women who vote, who were one-time Girl Scouts, is 77% compared to non-Girl Scouts of 63%. They have greater levels of education and greater socioeconomic status. They come into the world in the role of leadership, and they can be found just about every level of leadership. It's important that we make sure that we understand that, because that truly is the background and the backbone of American women's leadership in this country today. I want to just wrap up, because I know my time is ending, and I hope I've left you with all the questions you wanted to have. But let me end by just trying your minds on a couple of thoughts. Some of you may have seen this on your Facebook page. A professor wrote these words on a chalkboard: "A woman without her man is nothing." He asked the students to punctuate it. Almost to the one, they punctuated it like this. The boys wrote, "A woman, comma, without her man, comma, is nothing." The girls punctuated it this way: "A woman, semicolon, without her, comma, man is nothing." Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, our perspectives influence how we see things and what we do. And one, though I'm not an English professor, would say that, quite honestly, these are punctuated effectively, though we may not agree with the end result. It's important that we have women seated at the table, and if the table is not big enough, we need to either make the table bigger or remove the table from the center. What makes women... Harvard Business Journal, just last year, the Harvard Business Review, ran an article, and it was titled this: "What makes a team smarter? Quote, more women." The collective intelligence of a team rises when women are added to it. This comes from our ability to enhance our listening skills that we bring to the process. We share criticism more constructively. We tend to be more open-minded to others' ideas. And women-owned businesses are less likely to turn over than those owned by men. And when they're selling those businesses, women are more likely to ask their employees about what they should do with their future. I bring this to you today because women are sitting at the head of many tables. We need them at the head of more tables, whether those tables be politics, education, finance, or the arts. Think about the little grammar exercise that we did just a moment ago. The real challenge is accepting the perspective you bring to the table. As I began my comments this evening, I said to you, women have long been at the forefront of conversations of civic engagement. I've placed in front of you a list of some, just some, quotes that many of you may be familiar with. To everyone in the room, I remind you of Alice Walker and her quote, "The most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any." To the women in the room, I remind you of the words of Laurel Thatcher Ehrlich: Well-behaved women seldom make history. And to all of those in the room, as we wrap up this evening, I say to you, remember this. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. That quote is by Margaret Mead. And I thank you very much.